My name is Emily Carter. I'm 28, and I never expected my mother to give away my childhood bedroom while I was still living in it. If you've ever felt overlooked or betrayed by your own family, leave a comment and tell me where you're watching from. Like this video and subscribe for more stories like this. It happened when I was 17, 2 months before graduation. I came home from school to find a box on the porch with my name written in black Sharpie. Inside were my textbooks, my ballet shoes, and a broken photo frame of me and Dad. Mom stood at the door, arms crossed. "Your cousin Sarah just broke up with her boyfriend," she said. "She needs space to heal. I told her she could stay in your room." I blinked, confused. "What do you mean, my room?" "You can sleep in the basement for now. It's just temporary. Don't be dramatic." The basement was unfinished. No windows, no insulation, and the faint smell of mildew in the carpet. It wasn't a room, it was punishment. But I moved down without arguing. I thought if I just made myself small, it would pass. That week, I heard laughter from upstairs. Sarah and Mom bonding over takeout and wine. I wasn't invited. The door to my old room was closed with a "Do Not Disturb" sign taped on the outside. My trophies and photos had been boxed up and shoved in the garage. My name was erased without a conversation. I told myself it was okay, that in a year I'd be off to college. But that was the year my financial aid fell through. Mom said, "Maybe it's for the best. You're not ready to leave yet." But she didn't offer to help. She just kept planning Sarah's recovery like it was a joint therapy retreat. I worked 3 part-time jobs just to scrape together community college tuition. I studied in libraries, slept in borrowed apartments. Every time I passed by our house, the house I was raised in, I saw Sarah's car in the driveway. She'd moved in. I'd been phased out. By 21, I had my own apartment. By 23, I had my degree. By 25, I'd launched my own property management company, quietly buying up distressed homes and restoring them. I never told Mom. She only called when she needed something. A loan, a referral, an apology for something I didn't do. And when I didn't deliver, she'd remind me. "Family shows up, Emily. You're being cold." But 3 months ago, I got a call from her again. Sarah had finally moved out, off to chase some new dream across the country. Mom couldn't afford the mortgage anymore. She asked if I knew anyone who might be interested in buying the house. I didn't say much, just maybe. That night, I made a list of 4 things they'd never see coming. I didn't always feel like a guest in my own house. When I was little, I thought I was loved the same as everyone else. But the signs were there, even then. When I won my school science fair in 4th grade, Mom didn't come to the ceremony. She was helping Aunt Denise plan Sarah's birthday party. "She's turning 10, Mom said. "Double digits, that only happens once." But so did my award. At 12, I fractured my wrist during a gymnastics meet. Mom left halfway through to take Sarah dress shopping for her winter formal. She texted me, "Call me when it's over. You're tough, Em." That phrase followed me everywhere. "You're tough, Em." It meant, you don't need us. Sarah does. It meant, we don't have to choose you, because you'll survive being passed over. I did survive. I smiled through forgotten birthdays. I clapped for Sarah at her recitals while Mom recorded every second on her phone. I never even noticed she'd stopped coming to mine. Dad was different. He tried. He noticed when I stayed up late doing homework or when I skipped meals. But he traveled for work. And when he got sick, really sick. I was 17, the same year I lost my room. He died a month before graduation. And at his funeral, people kept asking if I was Sarah. Mom introduced her first. "This is Sarah." She and my husband were so close. I stood there in borrowed heels, next to a woman who had taken my room, my mother's attention, and now my father's memory. After that, I left quietly. No dramatic exits. No accusations. I just worked. At 18, I took night classes and waitressed during the day. When I had no money for books, I made friends with the librarians. They'd set aside the required texts for me during off hours. At 19, I found an online course in real estate law. I passed the test the first time. At 21, I bought my first duplex with a local investor who believed in me. He liked that I was hungry, that I didn't complain. "You're calm," he once said. "That means you've seen hell already." He wasn't wrong. Home had been its own version of hell. Not physical abuse, just absence. An absence so loud it echoed in every room. But silence taught me to listen, to notice the fine print in contracts, to ask the questions no one wanted to answer. By the time I was 25, I had 3 properties. By 27, 12. When Mom called that day, she had no idea I already owned 5 homes in our zip code, including the one across the street from hers. She didn't recognize the name on the letterhead, EC Property Holdings. She just wanted a sale. Fast. "You'd really be helping me," she said. "I know we haven't always seen eye to eye, but I need this." I scheduled a walkthrough, pretended I was sending an agent. The woman who greeted her wore a black coat and quiet confidence. Her name was Leah, and she was my friend from college. "She represents an anonymous buyer," Leah said. "He prefers discretion. Mom sold it in 2 weeks, under market value. She never asked questions, never thought to, because Mom had always underestimated me, always assumed I'd be the one needing help, not offering it. And now? She was living in a house she didn't own, owned by someone she once told to, stop acting like the victim. But I wasn't acting, I was remembering and preparing. I didn't plan to confront her. Not at first. I told myself the 30-day notice would speak for itself. But something about silence can be just as loud as confrontation. And I needed her to hear me. The notice arrived on a Thursday. Certified mail. Standard letterhead. A cleanly worded, legally sound document. Notice to vacate 30 days from receipt. Signed, EC Property Holdings. I got the call 5 minutes later. Her voice was high, shrill. "Emily, is this you?" I didn't answer right away. "You're evicting me? From my own house?" "No," I said. "I'm asking the current tenant to vacate a property she sold willingly. You tricked me. You sold it. I just happened to be the buyer." "But why?" she whispered. And I could hear it then. The moment realization crept in. All those years she told herself I was fine, that I didn't need anything. That I wouldn't remember. I didn't yell. I didn't gloat. I just said, "You made it clear years ago. This house didn't have space for me, so I built a life without it." Click. She hung up. I thought that would be it, that she'd pack her bags, leave in quiet shame, and that would be the end. But she showed up the next day, outside the office building where I rented space for EC Holdings. She waited in the lobby, arms folded like a mother with a scold in her throat. "I don't deserve this," she said as I stepped out of the elevator. "You don't do this to your own mother." "No," I said. "You don't do this to your daughter." Her face froze. "You gave away my room. You erased me from the house where I learned to walk, where Dad read me stories, where I thought I belonged. That was years ago. I was trying to help Sarah." I nodded slowly. "That's what you always said. Helping her meant hurting me." Tears welled up in her eyes, but they didn't fall, and I didn't soften, because this wasn't about pain. It was about acknowledgement. I slept in a moldy basement so she could heal from a breakup. You told me to be tough, so I became tough. You just never thought I'd be tougher than you. She looked away. I expected a fight. Instead, she whispered, "I don't know who you are anymore." I leaned in just slightly. "I'm the girl you forgot, and the woman who bought your house." That night, I stood outside the home where I grew up. Its shutters still crooked, the porch light flickering from bad wiring no one had ever fixed. Inside, she was pacing, probably calling friends, maybe Sarah. But I wasn't worried. I had the deed. I had the right. And most importantly, I had peace. The deadline came quietly. No fireworks. No showdown. Just the ticking of a clock I didn't have to wind. Day 12, she left a voicemail, said she was sorry if she ever made me feel unimportant. If ever. Day 18. I got an envelope in the mail. Inside was a picture of me as a child, maybe 6 years old, with a messy ponytail and a missing front tooth. On the back, she'd written, "You were always brave." I didn't call her back, because this wasn't about nostalgia. It wasn't about rewriting history. It was about finishing a story she never thought I'd get to tell. Day 27. She texted, "Can we talk before I go?" I agreed, not because I wanted closure, but because I already had it. This was for her. We met in the empty living room. The house echoed in a way I'd never heard before. Walls that once held laughter and judgment now sounded like grief. She looked smaller, like the walls had shrunk around her. "I packed everything," she said. "I didn't take the photo albums. I figured they belonged to you." "Thank you." She looked around once more. "I never meant to push you away." "You didn't mean to." "But you did." A long silence passed between us. And then she asked, "So what now? You flip the house? Tear it down?" I smiled softly. "No, I'm restoring it, not for resale." "For what then?" "For me." Her eyes widened. "You're moving in?" "Not exactly." I walked her to the door, handed her a final envelope. Inside was a printed brochure, the Carter Center for Youth Housing and Transitional Support, my new nonprofit. Headquartered at the house where no one made room for me. This place will be home for girls who need a bed, a desk, and someone who doesn't forget their name. She said nothing. She couldn't. I opened the door for her, gently, and as she stepped outside, she turned back just once. "You really don't hate me?" "No," I said. "I just finally love myself enough not to wait for you anymore." The first girl arrived on a rainy Tuesday. Her name was Brielle, 16. Thrown out for reasons no teenager should ever be made to carry alone. She stepped onto the same porch where I'd once stood holding a box of my belongings. Only this time, the door opened to welcome her in. My program had partnered with local counselors and youth advocates. The goal was simple: give girls like me what I never had: a warm bed, a place to study, someone who believed their future mattered. I didn't live there, but I visited often. I'd bring books, pizza, or just sit and listen. No lectures, no pity, just presence. One evening, I found Brielle sitting in what used to be Sarah's room, now repainted in soft lavender, with shelves full of donated novels. She looked up from her sketch pad and said, "Did you grow up here?" I nodded. She paused. "Did you like it?" I took a breath. I didn't feel seen here, but now I do. That night, I walked through the house slowly. Every room had changed, not just in paint or furniture, but in purpose. The basement? Added. Now a reading lounge. Insulated, lit with fairy lights, cozy, not forgotten. I stood there for a long time. The air smelled of warm tea and new beginnings. Mom hadn't reached out since she left, not even a holiday card. But I didn't wait by the phone. I didn't carry the ache anymore, because for the first time, I wasn't haunted by what I'd lost. I was building something with it. My staff joked that I was too hands-on for a founder, that most executives didn't spend this much time with clients. But I wasn't here to be impressive. I was here to be real. And every time a girl arrived with bruised pride and guarded eyes, I remembered what it felt like to be 17, to be replaced, to be told you were too much or too dramatic or too independent. Now I had one answer to all of that. Welcome home. Brielle wasn't the only one. By the end of that year, we'd taken in 9 girls, each one with a different story, but the same look in their eyes, that mix of defiance and heartbreak, of not knowing whether to hope again. Some stayed a month, some stayed 6, but every one of them left with more than they came in with. The community started to notice. The same neighbors who once looked past me now waved when I arrived. A local paper ran a story: the girl who came back as the landlord and changed everything. I didn't do interviews, but I did meet with school counselors, lawyers, and therapists. We expanded. Another property. Then 2. People asked me how I did it. I told them. You don't heal alone. You build the thing you needed and offer it to someone else. I thought about writing to my mother. Not to forgive, not to forget, but maybe to explain. Then one day, I got a letter, no return address, just my name. Inside was a simple card. No, dear Emily, no apology, only this. I drove past the house. It looks beautiful, better than it ever did. I'm glad it's being used for something good. I wasn't a good mom, but you became a good woman. Thank you for not letting pain turn you bitter. No signature. But I knew it was her. I sat with the card for a long time, let the silence fill the spaces between the sentences. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel the need to reply. She had said her piece, and I had already lived mine. I still pass by the old house sometimes. Only now, it's not just a house, it's a beginning. A soft landing for girls who never got one. A place where no one is asked to make themselves smaller to be loved. Sometimes I walk through the rooms alone, late at night after everyone's asleep. I run my fingers along the windowsills, breathe in the scent of lavender and old books. And I remember, not with anger, not with sorrow, just with clarity. I was never the problem. I was just the one who wouldn't disappear. One evening, I caught Brielle taping something to the inside of the basement door. It was a photo of all of us from our first holiday dinner together. Brielle, Jasmine, Dana, me, laughing, glowing in string lights and mismatched sweaters. Underneath, she'd scribbled, "We made it home." That's when I knew I didn't need revenge. I had something better. Legacy. A quiet kind. Built from bricks no one wanted and stories no one believed. It doesn't erase what happened. It rewrites what comes next. Have you ever had to walk away from people you once called family? Drop your story in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories about reclaiming your power. Send this to someone who needs to know they're not alone.